Hi guys, welcome to ASM Education. I hope you liked the previous two parts on the book, The McKinsey Way. So this is the second part of the second chapter. Uh, so let's begin. So here the author says that make sure your solution fits your client. He says that even the most brilliant solution that you've come out, that you've put in a lot of effort into, that maybe that practice is used by the best of the businesses, but it is useless, utterly useless, if your client or business can't implement it. He says you should know your client, their strengths, their weaknesses, their capabilities, what the management can do and what it cannot do. So then so here the author is giving a lot of examples of what his friends and colleagues have told him. So here again, a former McKinsey employee has said that they were doing a cost-cutting study for a large institution, and the institution was a global institution. It was in the process of linking all its offices throughout the globe through satellite. McKinsey said that it'll be easier and cheaper if you all do it, and it'll be done at a fraction of a cost, and you will save around $200 million if you all use it, if you all do the linking via telephone lines. But already the management had done this process for half the processes. So the management said that we've already started down this road, and politically it's just too risky because so many countries are involved, and honestly we need ideas that are bigger and better than this, and we have only a certain amount of energy and bandwidth in the organization that we can spare. So uh, so here what it shows is that this was not feasible for the client to do. Even though it was a good solution, it was saving around 170 to 180 million dollars, but it cannot work if it's not feasible for the client to do so. So here what he tells is that McKinsey hires people with stellar academic records, who've done well, who've passed out from top B schools, etc., etc. But he says that unfortunately, when academic ideals meet business realities usually win. Businesses are full of real people with real strengths, weaknesses, limitations. These people can do only so much with their finite resources. They have a very, very limited bandwidth. Some things they just cannot do, whether it is for political reasons, lack of resources, or inability to do so. As a consultant, it is your responsibility for knowing the limitations of your client and not making suggestions which cannot be applied. Okay. So then the author moves on to, sometimes you have to let the solution come to you. So he says that the McKinsey has made some rules of problem solving, and he says that, like all rules, all laws, there are some exceptions. You will not be able to form an initial hypothesis every time. Sometimes the client will not know what the problem is. He will just know that there is a problem. Other times the scope of your project will be so large or so vague that starting with an IH will be worthless. Maybe it's, for a company like in the Indian context, it could be a Reliance, and you have to do some consultancy for Reliance, but the group is so big you will not know where to start. So he says, do not panic. If you get your facts together and do your analysis, the solution will come to you. That's why at the beginning of the book I said facts are the building blocks. He says you get the facts right, man. If you get the facts right and do your analysis, nothing can stop you. So again, he gives an example that they were doing a study on trying to improve the performance of a bank and reduce the cost of the back office operations by 30%. They could not make an IH. He said the team that was working on this knew very little about the BPO, how the BPO, yani back office, works. So he went and interviewed the team, the leader of the back office and the senior staff, and the response that they got was very, a very mean response, that maybe you all do not know anything about this business. Maybe you all will study everything, waste your time, and tell us what we already know, or maybe you will not be able to reach to a conclusion. So, but still, what McKinsey guys did, they took all the data, they analyzed the facts, and it turned out that one of the products which gave only 5% of the revenue was accounting for 50% of their costs, and they were able to fix that. So the moral of the story is that an IH is not a prerequisite for a successful problem solving. So just don't keep in your mind that we need an IH. Okay, an IH is a good framework, it is a good start, it will give direction, it will give structure to your approach, but that is not a must. No business, he says that. So the moral of the story is that an IH is not a prerequisite. Also, he says that no business problem is immune to the power of fact-based analysis. If you get your facts right and do analysis, no business problem cannot be solved. Put together enough facts, combine them with some creative thinking, and you will come up with a solution. Then the author says that there are some problems you just can't solve. and solve, but he says you have to solve them anyway. Even he says that eventually you will run into a brick of wall that is stronger than your head. So the author is using a lot of humor. He's saying that there'll be a wall of brick that'll be tougher than your heads, and there's no matter how much you bang your head over it, there will be no effect on the wall. So he says that fractions within the client's senior management prevent them from doing their job. A lot of times the data arrives late, it's not usable, or it's maybe it's not in the usable form, or maybe it's completely useless. The people whom they need to interview do not interview them properly, or give delayed interviews. So sometimes you'll have to just spend uncomfortable months on the study and have to make do with what they can and make some recommendations. So he says that the road of problem solving is often strewn with obstacles. Data to prove your hypothesis may be missing or bad. Sometimes businesses realize too late that they have a problem. So what if not even McKinsey, even God comes and tries to save the business, it will not happen. The business is already doomed. He says that the biggest obstacle that sometimes McKinsey consultants face is politics. The first thing we should understand about politics is that businesses are full of real people. For us as consultants, or when we make a plan, we just consider people as boxes, but we should think that these boxes are actually people. When we move one box, we are changing one person's life. And he also says that sometimes what we try to bring is change management, and sometimes he says that change management means that changing the management. Sometimes you have to change the management. So when a team of McKinsey goes to any client, they carry change with them. Some of the clients will welcome the bringers of change, and some will think that this is an invading army. He says that from his past experience, it is a rare engagement where there is not at least one sector of the client organization that didn't want us there. So what happens in most cases is that the senior management brings McKinsey they onboard McKinsey. So eventually the organization has to cooperate and willingly support McKinsey, and then the consulting work becomes very effective. But however, what happens if there are two powerful fragments in an organization, and one faction calls McKinsey maybe against the wishes of the other powerful faction, then there will be trouble. So you have several options to pick from when confronted with a problem that seems too difficult to solve. Sometimes you redefine the problem. Say the client has hired you for problem X, but you say, okay, no, problem Y is a major issue. In less time, resolving problem, so say problem Y will get resolved in less time and will add more benefits. So it is better to focus your resources on Y rather than X. Then he says tweak a way to a solution. So for example, if you come up with a brilliant solution but it is not feasible for the organization, try to make it feasible for the organization. Try to tweak it such that it becomes applicable to the organization. Then he says work through the politics. He says most people who do business are rational. They want their business to do well. They react to incentives. So he says that when you feel political opposition, means that your solution has some negative impact for the incentives of someone in the organization. So he says that to work through the politics, you must think about how your solutions affect the players in an organization, because the big players will get affected if you do some restructuring. So then build a consensus for change that takes in account for the different incentives and organizational factors that are driving the politics. So this is how the author tells that one should develop an approach to problem solving. This, I think, was one of the best chapters, adding so many layers of thought on how you should think about business problems. So yeah, guys, so this is the end of the chapter 2. This was overall the third video of the entire consulting series. There'll be a lot more videos, but this was the second part of the second chapter. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you learned something out of this. I hope this added value to the time you've invested. Thank you for watching this video. Please share, like, and subscribe. Have a good day.